2026 NFL draft prospect comparison, comparing them to pro players in the present and the NFL and in the past. Fernando Mendoza. I think he's a slightly more athletic Matt Ryan than Tyson. I'm going to say not fully, but he has some flashes of Odell Beckham Jr. to his game. I love the running back out of Notre Dame. Kind of reminded me of Lamar Miller, Rueben Bain Jr.
There's a little bit of Micah Parsons to this game.
Mansoor Delane. The play style definitely kind of compared him to Quinyon Mitchell. Caleb Downs is the number 2 player in this class. Styles.
Athletic traits were through the roof.
My name is Daniel Rios, and that is Luke Hubbard, and we are going to be doing some 2026 NFL draft prospect comparisons, just comparing them to pro players in the present and the NFL and in the past. But before we get to that, make sure you guys pay attention to our socials and everything leading up to the NFL draft, because we're going to be having a live show the night of round 1 and round 2, or day 2. Round 1 is going to start around 7 p.m. Eastern time, so make sure it'll be on YouTube and Twitter. So if you want to make sure to kind of check that out, we'll be live breaking down the picks, kind of talking about, what we kind of feel like is going on throughout round 1. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Cannot wait for Thursday night. It's going to be an electric night in Pittsburgh. But without further ado, let's get into some of our player comparisons. First off, we're going to start with Fernando Mendoza, quarterback out of Indiana. And for me, I'm going to compare him to Matt Ryan. You look at it, I think he's a slightly more athletic Matt Ryan. They're both big, tall kind of quarterbacks. Matt Ryan was 6'5" coming out of Boston College. Obviously, Mendoza is 6'5". They're both around 220 to 230 pounds. I was really surprised when Mendoza came out 230 pounds at the combine, but both those guys are very accurate with the football and smart players. So, who'd you have for Mendoza?
I'm gonna stick with your slightly more athletic thing and go with Jared Goff. He's another guy. I mean, he's a lot like Matt Ryan, just a high IQ, good arm, highly accurate player. But he's a little bit more mobile. He can scoot when he needs to. He's no Lamar Jackson, but he can pick up a first down with his legs. And if he actually reaches that potential, I mean, that's a top 10 quarterback in the league.
Yeah, for sure. And then next up, we're going to do Jordyn Tyson, the receiver out of Arizona State. This is a very polarizing player to me, a lot of opinions, but I'm going to say not fully, but he has some flashes of Odell Beckham Jr. to his game. You look at just the kind of confidence he plays, the twitchiness in his routes, his body control to go up and make these, catches up in the air. It just reminds me of Odell Beckham Jr. And then he plays with the confidence Odell had. Just very confident when he's in one-on-one coverage and really has, quickness within his routes. I think it's a high bar to set. I think Beckham was a faster player, but I think Tyson definitely has some flashes of Odell in his game.
Yeah, for the same reasons as you, I put Odell for one of mine, but I also see some hints of Amari Cooper in there. He's a pretty big guy. He can run routes. He can kind of line up all over the field, and he can be pretty physical too. So he's a lot like Amari Cooper was coming out of college, I think. So, I mean, if he's anything like Amari Cooper and Odell Beckham, that's a top 10 pick for sure. You just got to stay healthy.
Yeah, exactly. And the next up is a lot of people's number 1 overall player in this class, Jeremiyah Love, the running back out of Notre Dame. For me, when I kind of looked at it in his size, it kind of reminded me of Lamar Miller, if you guys remember who that is. Played for the Dolphins, Texans, and a little bit earlier, the 2010s. But I think size, it's definitely Miller, but I think play style is Jamal Charles a little bit, a guy who can affect the game at all 3 levels, really electric with the ball in his hands and can make catches out of the backfield. Love was really fun to watch, and those are the 2 players that kind of kept coming up when I was watching him.
Yeah, I got to agree with you on Jamal Charles. I mean, he's just an explosive runner. He can run inside, he can go outside. He'll beat you straight, like with his legs in a straight line. He'll run through you. And he's also he's got a ton of receiving upside, which hopefully, like we saw with Ashton Genty, he didn't really catch a lot of passes in college, but when he got to the NFL, he kind of took off in that area. So if Love can take another step as a receiver, it's like the sky's the limit for that guy.
Yeah, 100%. Next up, we're going to be doing Rueben Bain Jr., the defensive end out of Miami. Obviously, the arm length, 3rd shortest arms measured at the combine since 1999. But for me, it was kind of hard to come up with a comp, but I kept coming back to Brandon Graham. Both of these defensive ends who are kind of more compact and, rely on strength, just kept coming back to Graham, who obviously was very dominant when he was in the NFL for the past couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, once again, we're on the same page. Brandon Graham was one of mine, but also I think there's a little bit of Micah Parsons to this game. He's a great athlete. He's short. Micah Parsons is a little bit compact too, but he's kind of fought through it, and he's very physical at the point of attack. So he really doesn't have like an exact comp, unlike a lot of these players, which is a bit interesting. Yeah. So I really want to see how he turns out in the league, because he could be anywhere from a bust, or he could be one of the top edge rushers.
Yeah, definitely hard for Bain. But I think one that was kind of easier for me was Mansoor Delane, the corner out of LSU. I think you look at the play style, definitely kind of compare him to Quinyon Mitchell from a couple years ago. But I think more of size. I look at Denzel Ward. He has the physicality, and he has the speed for being a smaller guy. I think, for Delane, it was probably one of the easier ones to make a comp for me.
Yeah, I actually went with Devon Witherspoon as my comp for Mansoor Delane. They're both
Interesting.
5'11". They both weighed in at 180, or I think Delane was 187 and
Yeah.
Witherspoon was 181 at the combine. Both ran 4.38 and a 4.42, so very similar size and speed, and they're both great in man and press coverage. So pretty easy comp there.
Yeah. And then for me, Caleb Downs is the number 2 player in this class. And I think what would be kind of fun if he got drafted to Kansas City at 9, because my comp is Eric Berry. Obviously, he came out of Tennessee, and Berry is a more athletic and bigger kind of prospect. But when you just kind of look at the play styles, they are just so smart. They rely on instincts, and they are just honestly the smartest players on the field. Berry can affect the game whenever he wanted, and I think Downs can do the exact same thing.
Yeah, I went with Earl Thomas here because Earl Thomas, I mean, he was
Yeah.
great at everything. He can cover, he can come down, defend the run, and he'll lay the boom on you. Obviously, he was in the Legion of Boom, so that makes a lot of sense. But I think,
Yeah.
Downs will play in the slot. He can literally do everything you want a safety to do. So you can any of the great safeties, Earl Thomas, Kyle Hamilton, even could probably be a comparison here.
Yeah, 100%. And then lastly, we're going to be doing Sonny Styles, the linebacker out of Ohio State as well. A lot of people are comparing him to Fred Warner, and I don't blame them, but I kind of saw a little bit more of Tremaine Edmonds, who is now on the Giants. So it'd be kind of funny if he got, drafted to the Giants at 5. But again, just another tall, athletic kind of player who can really drop back and pick up those crossing routes and, zone coverage and, those vertical routes. And Edmonds does that as well. And he's also really solid in the run. So I just kind of kept coming back to that more athletic type of and bigger type of linebacker, and Edmonds definitely was that coming out of college.
Yeah, I love the Fred Warner comparisons, though. I mean,
Yeah,
he would have to reach his complete potential to be Fred Warner, but I mean, his athletic traits were through the roof. So if he gets in the right system, like he can be Fred Warner 2.0. He can fly around the field. I mean, there's
yeah,
literally that video of Fred Warner diving and flying like 10 yards to make tackles. I mean, that's
yeah.
exactly what this guy can do if he reaches his potential.
Yeah, Styles is definitely a fun one. But those are all the players we're here to, who we had pro comps for. You make sure to let us know in the comments what you thought about, some of the comps we had and maybe some comps that you have potentially for some of these players. Again, make sure to check our socials. Make sure to check the YouTube and the X page on the night of the draft because we're going to be going live for the first round for the draft in Pittsburgh. And again, thank you for watching and make sure to like and comment.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.